I am thrilled to welcome to our show today the amazing Alice Park, truly one of the most incredible people I've ever connected with. Alice, I'm so honored to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here, Ellen.
So, Alice, I'm going to finally see you in a few months in Nashville in January for Elevate Summit, which we will definitely share with you guys in a moment. But before we get to that exciting piece, I do want to jump right into your case study.
Mhm.
For a little context, though, I usually like to ask our guests, what is your cubicle to CEO story? So you don't have to give us your whole backstory, but if you could sum up your 30 to 60-second journey from the last, I guess, corporate or, regular job you worked to when you decided to actually become an entrepreneur, I'd love to hear that story.
Absolutely, Ellen. 30 seconds is going to be hard. But like you probably, I went to school for engineering, wanted to please my parents, got a degree in industrial engineering. First job was actually in a cubicle at UPS. I was an industrial engineer. I was so unhappy with my life. I lasted about 1 year there, met my then husband at a happy hour with some coworkers. He and I hit it off really quickly. Our first night, he asked me, because I expressed to him how unhappy I was, if I could do anything for the rest of my life, what would it be? And I told him I would love to be a photographer. And so at the age of 22, he convinced me to pursue my dreams, and he helped me figure out how to do it. So from that point on, I left my job 1 year in. Decided to pursue photography full time. I had to be a waitress. I had to be a hostess. I had to do all the things in order to make this startup happen. But then very quickly, my brand took off. I introduced something to the market that was very novel, very unique. It was basically a unique family album that our clients were able to take away from my experience with me. It mimics kind of a wedding album, but for family photography. And so that's how it kind of took off in our area. I have been since doing that. I'm in my 17th year now. We have started many brands. From that point. And of course, the love story in all of this is that my husband and I did end up becoming great business partners. And then we married, and now we have a family of four.
Oh my gosh. I actually didn't know that about you, Alice. I didn't know that was I guess your start into the business world. And it just makes me so happy to hear that because I did not get an engineering degree. So I
Mhm.
was not as dedicated as you in doing and pursuing that path. But a lot of the other elements of your story, I can absolutely relate to. Like my now fiance, we met around the same time. I was 23 at a
Yeah.
corporate job. And I think it actually was through a happy hour. So that's kind of funny. Like we have a very similar story in that
I really
regard.
do feel like we do, Alan.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for you to meet him because he's coming to Nashville with me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I'm so
so that
excited.
I know it'll be just this a little reunion in a way, even though we've never met, but it feels like we've known each other for years. I know we both said
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
So thank you. I think that's really amazing to hear just how long you've been in business because I also know that a lot of entrepreneurship stories are centered around people who are like, oh, this was an overnight success, or oh, they built this, empire in 2 years. And I think for a lot of people, that's just not realistic. And that's not the real story for 99% of entrepreneurs. So I love getting to talk to women like you who have not only built such a successful business, but have truly built a sustainable business, a business
Mhm.
that can go the distance, that is almost nearing the 2-decade mark. I mean, wow, that's such an accomplishment. So, Alice, your case study today is all about how your photography business was right around the $500,000 mark from an annual revenue perspective and how you were able to jump up to 7 figures in revenue. So, really doubling your capacity by starting to create these family portrait events. So I am very excited to talk about this because even if you're listening to this and you're not a photographer, I think this case study is still going to apply to you because it's going to teach you how to think about scaling a service-based business when you
Mhm.
are at the moment, the sole service provider or the person that people come to for a particular, expertise or whatever it is, learning how to build a team and how to expand out in a creative way, I think is going to be really insightful. So let's start by talking about, how did this idea come to your head? Was it born out of a moment of inspiration, or was it born out of a moment of frustration where you felt burnt out or overbooked?
That's a great question, Ellen. So my husband, who is the business side of our partnership, has always known that he needed to scale and build a scalable business model. He knew, especially when we were having children, that I should and could not be the only provider of the family. If I'm not taking pictures, we're not bringing in revenue for our family. And so he was always looking for business opportunities to scale whatever model we were doing, whether it be providing online education or providing other ways of building in passive income, whether it be a rental outlet with our studio or taking on real estate. And so this has always been on the back of his mind. For me as a creative, I have always had a really hard time of letting go of control. The photography aspect was something that was really important to me and my client. I loved building and establishing that relationship with them. Those friendships are very dear to me. And so any opportunity I have to connect with my clients on a personal level was always at the forefront of what I did. And so it actually took us a little while to get to this point, and mostly because, like, I really wanted to outsource every other part of our business, the editing, the album design, the studio management, all of that. The administrative part of it, but I had a really hard time letting go of the photography. And so one day in 2019, I decided, because I've just noticed in the industry, like we started NAPCP, which is the National Association of Professional Child Photographers, over a decade ago. I've always surveyed the industry and always had a touch point with what was going on in our specialized niche industry. I realized that what we had experienced 10 years ago in our particular genre, which is a luxury experience for portrait photographers, kind of averaging around a $3,500 to $7,000 sale with each of our clients, we started experiencing a drop in that. And this was not just through me, it was across the board. A lot of our photographer peers were expressing a huge saturation of photographers entering the industry and coming in at a very low price point and offering a package that included all digital files. So, what we offered, which was a very high-end luxury service, gallery wall installations from beginning to end. My product, which was album design and delivery. I pride myself in creating these heirloom albums for my clients year after year. But then companies like Artifact Uprising and so many others come into the market and reach our consumers directly so that they don't need us to handhold them through the process itself. They instead empower our clients to do the work themselves. And so we started to experience a shift in how we were able to not only serve our clients, but provide an experience that resulted in a high-end sale. And so I just started noticing my clients were requesting something completely different. They wanted all the digital files. And one day, as I mentioned before, I went on Instagram, and I'm very fortunate in that I have a very engaged following, and many of my following happens to be my target demographic and clientele. And so I surveyed them. I asked them very just like upfront, what is the typical investment you would like to make in a family photo session? Because there were a lot of people who followed me, always wanted to have the experience of working with me, but for some reason never did. And so I just asked them very candidly, can you just please share with me what would be the typical investment you would be comfortable in making and working with me as a portrait session? And so I was very astounded at the responses. It was about 90% that said between $400 to $500. And that's when my brain just like exploded. I realized, number one, I needed a shift. And number two, I needed to really listen to them. And number three, I was missing out on a huge percentage of my following and audience that I was not able to serve and connect with because of my pricing model. And so, in order to work with me in any capacity, a client had to invest at least $2,500. And so I started to think outside the box. We had this beautiful all white studio that provided endless opportunities to create events in here. We had already kind of played around with the model of portrait events. Like we did do like a pajama session event that went to charity during Christmas time. I always like to support St. Jude at the end of the year. And so we already had tested the model and brought clients in at a lower price point and provided an experience around it. But it wasn't until that moment when I reached out to my audience directly and asked them that we were able to figure out that this is what they wanted. And so in 2020, of course, when everything came crashing down, I still went forward with this business model. I offered my clientele a very low entry point. It was $150 to book your ticket to our portrait event. I put it out there, and with it, these are the type of events we always mentioned. It's a limited capacity. They would sell out within a day, Ellen. It was just crazy. And then we would bring them into the experience, and then we would convert our studio to whatever theme we were hosting for that particular holiday, whether it be Mother's Day, Easter, Christmas, what name you. And we would just like sell them on the experience. From the moment they walked into the door, it was this red carpet experience. We would transform our space into whatever like holiday experience we wanted to emerge our clients with. The children would have an amazing time. They would walk away with all these treats. It would be like a party explosion for them. The parents were happy because the children were happy. And then the portraits were a very small part of the experience. They would go into our all white studio, and then we would take their pictures for 10 minutes. And then they would walk away feeling ecstatic about it. Now, what hosting these portrait experience allowed me to do as a business owner was step away from being behind the camera, bring on associate photographers. And my clients knew that because this was a lower price point, they were not getting Alice Park directly. They were getting one of Alice's highly trained, like energetic, talented photographers capturing their experience. And then Alice would still be on site hosting the event. So I didn't lose that connection piece that I yearned so much for. I was still there hosting every client that came in the door. I was talking to them. I was continuing to establish that relationship, but I wasn't like on my knees, like taking pictures every 10 minutes and like trying to get those perfect shots. I brought on a team of photographers who could do that. And then every other aspect of the event, I was able to bring on, automate, outsource, and still provide a high-end experience for my clients. But by doing this, Ellen, we were able to focus more on a volume-based business, bring in more people through the door, and then multiply our revenue exponentially, and then provide a service that they can't find anywhere else.
That's incredible. And what I love about what you shared, well, there's multiple things, but just, I mean, you guys know if you listen to this podcast, I always like to recap my favorite takeaways from each moment in the conversation. And for me, the biggest takeaways that I just heard, Alice, are that it's so important to ask your audience and not assume things. So, market research, social listening, those are things that I believe are foundational to your business, whether you're day one or day 1 million, it doesn't really matter. It's just an ongoing evolving process. And I love that your audience was able to reveal to you an opportunity that you might not have ever considered going into had you not made the ask. So I think that's incredible. The other piece of it is I feel like that fear that you brought up of letting go of control is true not only for creatives but really for any sort of business owner, because what you create is so personal oftentimes to you, and especially for you. I mean, photography is a form of art. It's so personal, it's so subjective, and so that is very difficult, I think, to let go of. But it's incredible that you were able to really pinpoint out of the entire service that you provide as a photographer, what was most important to you to retain? So that was the connection with your clients. And then you were able to think about, okay, how can I, like you said, outsource or automate the other pieces of it so that I can maintain the piece that only I can do, which is, to develop that relationship with you personally.
Right.
And it reminds me a little bit of, I can't remember what business mentor originally gave me this analogy, but it's always stuck with me. Like when you go to the dentist's office, your whole experience there from beginning to end, I shouldn't really call it an experience. It's not really that exciting of an experience. Maybe that's a business opportunity for someone. But your whole time there, really, you only see the actual dentist for like a 5-minute window, right? When they come in and do their little teeth
Hmm.
tapping, like 1, 2, 1, 4, whatever, the whole thing. And it's really fascinating because they're the highly paid expert, but they only really see you for this short window of time because they're doing only the thing that they can do so that other people can fill in those support roles and, clean your teeth or check you in or whatever it is that they don't necessarily need to do. And that kind of just reminds me of the mindset that you approached this with. And I would love to actually get into, you kind of started sharing what the event might look like. I'd love to get deeper into the logistics with you.
Yeah.
I feel like for the purpose of this case study, it might be helpful just to pick one specific experiential event that you've created in the past. And because we're in the holiday season or entering into the holiday season, I think it'd be so much fun to talk about your Santa or Christmas based portrait experiences. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. I'd love to share. Okay. So the Santa experience is actually something we have been offering to our clients for 17 years. We partnered with a local baby boutique who was kind of our number one referral source when we started our business. Um, 17 years ago, my dear friend and one of my best friends, Chappie Braithwaite, started a baby boutique, a very high-end baby boutique in our community around the same time I did. We connected very early on and we created the Santa experience in her store 17 years ago. And I controlled the photography aspect. She brought in the clients. And so in 2020, we decided to bring the experience to Park Studios. And this is when I was able to completely shift the experience for my clients. It was the same magical Santa our clients were used to seeing every year. But this time, the experience part of it became such a bigger portion of it. And so you think about going to the mall for your Santa portraits. And this is something we've been doing since we were little. And in the South, especially, Ellen, it is like a whole different level of tradition. It's very important to families here. And I myself have photographs of me sitting on Santa's lap when I was young. And it's extremely important for parents to be booking their sessions with Santa early on. Now it's like summer of that year. People are already on the ball and booking their Santa portraits, whether it's through Alice Park Photography or another studio here in the South, but it's an incredibly important tradition. But we wanted to make sure that it was our experience that they wanted their children to have. And so at this point, we already had a long list of clients that were very devoted to our Santa and to our photography over the years. We had developed that relationship. But in shifting this model, I actually tripled the price of the experience. It used to be around $79 and now it is around the $200, $300 mark. And that included of course, the ticket to the event, which we marketed as almost like a winter wonderland experience for their children, a 5-minute portrait session and visit with Santa, a very private one. And so you're not dealing with lines, you're not dealing with seeing the session before of the crying children on Santa's lap. If you wanted your children to have a private session, whether they're crying on his lap or not, it was very private and very exclusive behind a closed curtain. And, for the parents walking in the door with their children, we made hot chocolate, custom lattes. There is a station where you can make these amazing waffle like cakes for the children. And there's a cotton candy bar. There's Polar Express. There's a whole table full of treats. And we had like activities that the children could do. And so it was really a big old holiday party for the children. Their time with us was probably about 20, 25 minutes. Their portrait session and visit with Santa was about 5 minutes. And while this is all going on behind, like with the clients, we had a whole team, a production crew, like going through the images, editing them in real time. I was out with the clients, greeting them and then catching up. And there was every aspect of the experience, and every detail taken care of, on the day of. So it's a highly orchestrated event if you think about it. We see over 100 families every day, and we host this 6 times. In 2022, we will host 6 Santa Experience dates. And so it's high volume. It is very much like every client's experience from very beginning to end is orchestrated. However, we try to make this as personalized as possible. We remember every child's name. We have intel and information about each one of them. So when they come and visit Santa, Santa kind of knows like what they got last year. And it really is like a meaningful visit with him. It's real conversations going over the list, and it doesn't seem rushed. It doesn't seem hurried. It's very private. And so our clients love it.
That's beautiful. I mean, I love this concept of how can you create an experience for your clients and customers? This is a theme actually that has come up multiple times over the last 6 to 12 months in my interviews with many different guests across many different industries. And I think it's such a encouraging thing to see that that's really the way that businesses are leaning and evolving to is how do we create not just a great product or a great service, but how do we create an entire experience around it?
Yes.
I think you've really excelled in this area, especially because as you said, you started as a luxury portrait photographer. And what I want people to take away from this is it's not that you somehow had to, what is it, compromise on the quality of the actual portraits or the photos that they were getting, right? Instead, you just narrowed down the scope of what you were providing for them. So instead of a fully custom one-on-one, maybe hour-long session with all these different elements and you shooting personally, you were able to give them that high quality photo that they wanted, but in a 5-minute window, like you said. And I love that even though your business is a portrait photography business, you have created a signature service or event that makes that piece of it, like you said, such a small part of the actual thing that people are buying into, which is brilliant. And so I want to get a little bit more into the behind the scenes process of it. For example, you mentioned there are associate photographers, you mentioned there's a production team editing in real time. I'm sure there's other staff helping with setup and maybe set design for that winter wonderland and marketing and all the things. So usually for one of these events like the Santa Experience, how many total bodies or like roles are part of putting this on? And are most of them seasonal or project based team members that you're hiring specifically for an event? Or do you also have full time employees that are part of this event?
Sure. In any particular event, let's take the Santa Experience, for example, we probably have about 10 bodies behind the scenes orchestrating every detail, from the photographer itself to her assistant to our wonderful Santa. We have a production team that includes someone that culls the images on site. We have an editor who edits the images. The production team is also like putting together galleries for the clients and making sure that they are sent out to clients in a timely manner. We have people on the front end greeting clients, making sure that we're on schedule, making sure everything in the front of the studio is running as scheduled. I'm in there, my husband's in there with me. We have someone serving hot chocolate. Like we bring in outside vendors that come in and delight our clients with the services they provide. And so all in all, it is a good team that puts on these events, and it's expensive to put on these events as well. It's important to note that while we have exponentially increased revenue on the back end, we have also exponentially increased our expenses on the back end. And so Um, it's expensive to put on these events, but our clients walk away with an experience they can't experience anywhere else. I think it's important to also note, Ellen, that, you know, while being in this business for 17 years, the important part about being able to sustain this business is knowing how to pivot when necessary, knowing how to evolve as a business to serve our clients better. We have seen an explosion of family photographers, which has been amazing and so encouraging to see like our industry grow in this way. But as a business owner, you always have to think about how you can differentiate yourself and provide your clients with an experience unlike any other. And so I really had to shift our thinking. People very much are craving like experiences that are outside the box. And so I have provided one-on-one luxury experience for them for many years. And while I'm still doing that, I still have my clients that I've seen for the past 15, 17 years. And I'm still keeping that luxury price point with them. But this is a way for me to touch a broader audience and continue to build my name and brand in our community in an exciting way. And so,
Love
I
that.
guess to answer your question, there's a lot of people behind the scenes putting on this production for our clients. They don't necessarily see all of that, but it is something that we plan, about 6 to 8 months in advance. And when we're ready to go, it's like game time.
Hi, friends. We're back for lightning round with Alice Park. Alice, I'm going to shoot 3 questions your way, whatever pops into your head, 10 seconds. Ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. First question. What is one thing on your bucket list?
Oh my goodness. Travel. My children are young and they love hanging out with us. So I want to travel with them as much as possible while I have the opportunity.
What is the next destination in mind for you?
As many outdoor adventures as possible. I want to travel to every single 50 state with my children before they head out to college. I want to go to as many national parks as we can.
That's incredible. I love that you bring your family with you on this bucket list adventure. All right, question number 2. What's something you could eat for a month straight, every single day, 30 days, and you would just still not be sick of it?
Hands down sushi. Like I love sushi in every variety fashion. It just is comfort food for me. My husband and I both really enjoy it and we could eat it every day.
We need a sushi date.
We
I'm in.
do.
Yes. All right, final question. Do you sing in the shower?
Um, I do, but not very well. I love singing with my children, like any opportunity that I can. I love singing and dancing with them. But in the shower, I like to think, like brainstorm while I'm in the shower.
It's a good place to think. It really your mind just kind of expands. I'm totally with you.
It
Awesome.
is.
Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
I can imagine. I mean, any event is such a heavy lift and
Mhm.
it's such a big team lift as well. I'm curious, before I ask you my next question, I wanted to go back for a moment to something you said, the fact that you do still offer luxury portrait sessions for certain clients who want to invest at that level. I know that your well, I shouldn't say I know. I'm assuming that you creating these experiences to be able to, like you said, touch a broader audience that may not be ready or may not be looking to invest that higher level. It allows you to serve these families in a way that's affordable to them. But I'm just curious from your own internal strategy standpoint, are you hoping to use the experiences as an initial entry point for these new customers into your world? And then do you find that some of these clients do end up upselling to a luxury portrait session down the road? Or are those two sides of your business almost completely separate and there's not really a direct path or connection that you see between those two different types of clients?
That's a great question. I really do feel like it's two separate clientele. Um, I have actually, from a business point of view, increased my own pricing. So, in order to work with Alice Park, it is a higher level of investment than it was in years prior. And I did this intentionally a lot, just as one person to another. When you reach your 40s, Ellen, Your body is just not as energetic as it used to be. And I'm always looking in the mind frame of where do I want to be in 5 to 10 years. So in 10 years, I'll be 50. And at that point, I will probably have retired out of photography. I will probably hold on to my very, very dear group of clientele who have been with me from the very beginning. But at that point, I don't know if I want to be running after children with my camera anymore. So that's another thing that I had to really think about when shifting this business model is would I want to be going at the same speed that I was going, 5 to 10 years ago when we were at the $500,000 mark? No, like that was draining me. I was pushing myself. I was doing all the things and almost to the point of burnout.
Mhm.
And this model allows me just so much fulfillment. Like every client that is able to walk in the door is just so elated to be able to work with the Alice Park brand in this capacity, still receive the quality and photographs that they're accustomed to, but walk away at an investment point that they're comfortable with. And so instead, I get to pour all of my creativity in these young 20-year-old photographers that I just love bringing on as associate photographers to our team. They are so energetic, they're talented, they are hungry, they are yearning to learn. And so I get to mold the next generation of photographers. I get to teach them all the big takeaways that I learned as a 17-year-old photographer business owner. And so I actually find so much fulfillment in mentoring the new up and coming generation of photographers and continuing to set the standards in our industry. And so going back to your question, Ellen, like I don't feel like I'm sacrificing who I am. I've priced myself at a point where if you would like to work with Alice Park, this is the investment. But if you are excited about the things that Alice is bringing to the experiential portrait event market, then this is what she's delivering. And so it's a balance, you know. I'm very
Yeah.
clear with my clients when they come to our studio for a portrait event. They're not being photographed by Alice Park. They're being photographed by one of her highly trained associate photographers, but it will
Yeah,
still have the Alice Park brand.
you actually perfectly, I feel like, answered one of my questions that I was going to ask about how do you ensure that clients walk away with that same quality that they've come to really respect and know in the area for your shooting style, right? Because photography is so artistic, is so particular oftentimes to the person behind the lens. And so I love that you really find such joy and fulfillment in mentoring these up and coming associate photographers. Are these photographers, like, for example, for your Santa experience, you mentioned there's usually one associate photographer and then her assistant, right? Or his assistant. And
Right.
so are these photographers that by the time an event like this rolls around, they've already been under your wing for a certain amount of time? And outside of these events, are they a staff member at your studio and kind of, being I don't know if apprenticeship is the right word. I know for different industries, there's different terms, but is that typically a longer duration mentor relationship, or is it something where they come in for these events and then maybe outside of the events, they're running their own businesses as the main photographer? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. They are their own independent business owners running their own businesses, which I love and fully support. And then they come in for these events to photograph as an associate photographer. So we pay them kind of as a contractor,
Hmm.
and they come in and photograph for the event. Now, there is quite a bit of a training process prior to shooting any event with us. There's quite a bit of time that we spend together from one artist to the other. I'm very specific about my shooting style, the type of light that I shoot in, like the poses. I've created this whole manual for every event. And I walk through every bit of it with our photographers before they step foot in. And then there's actual time where they get to spend time with clients and I get to see how they work. I'm like behind them throughout the entire process, giving them my experience on how to shoot better And so they also appreciate that aspect of it because I am teaching them how to shoot more efficiently. I'm teaching them how to engage with clients in the way that I do. It's kind of like something that you learn after, decades of shooting, that just being able to connect with your clients and gain their trust is such an important aspect. And so I teach them how to do that very efficiently. And I teach them how to watch the clock and make sure you're running on schedule, all the different things to make them a strong shooter for our portrait events. There's quite a bit of a process for that. But they are working with us as a project-based kind of model. We pay them by event. I also pay them for their training period to make sure that they're fully engaged in learning and taking all the things that I have to offer. And then also part of like being able to work with me is that mentorship program. I offer so many times during my slow season where I meet with them personally, all the entire associate team for our brand, talk to them individually about their own businesses, where they are, talk to them about how they should be pricing, the strategic mindset behind our clients, and, the different business models that we offer to help them in their own businesses profit more. So,
That is such an incredible opportunity. I mean, quite frankly, I would pay you for that mentorship, right? I mean, the fact that they get paid to train with you and be mentored
mhm,
by you is, I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer. I can't even imagine, what impact that has on these young entrepreneurs, young photographers who are just coming into the industry and getting to
yes,
learn from someone. And I always say there's no shortcut to success, right? But you can shortcut other people's mistakes if you invest with a mentor, because there are some
absolutely.
things only time and experience can really tell you or show you. And the fact that you
Right.
can give, someone the heads up, like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
hole in the ground right there. Like, don't step there, go over here.
Yes.
That's
I
just
love it
that's
so much,
priceless.
Ellen. Also, from a business perspective, I personally love pouring into our associates in that capacity. But from a business perspective, that's very intentional too, because I really am creating the sense of loyalty for my associate shooters.
Mm.
They get so much out of this mentorship with me. And so by me pouring into them, they're pouring right back into our business. They are servicing my clients in the highest capacity. They are treating them as if they are their own because of the relationship they have with me. And they're putting their best work forward because they truly value the relationship that we have. And so it definitely works both ways. I pour into them, they pour into us, and it's just like this mutually beneficial, synergistic kind of relationship that I love so much.
I love reciprocal relationships like that. And I'm not surprised at all that that's how you work and operate, because it's very clear from the get go when someone meets you, like when I met you, that you care deeply about investing in people and long term relationships, collaborative relationships. So I love and admire that you model that in all aspects of your business. I I know that like in private, before you came on this podcast, I'm also just so grateful that you are willing and have shared so transparently in our conversation all these things that normally that you don't talk about, like, finances, income, all these little things that, like we've privately spoken about, are typically not things that we grow up talking about in Asian culture. And so
Right.
I'm just so grateful to have a friend like you who is willing to step outside of that comfort zone and share, because I think that this information is so valuable to someone who just doesn't have that same world experience that you've already had. And I know you've already shared some of the numbers, like, your average ticket prices, for example.
Right.
You mentioned for Santa Experience $200 to $300. I know at the beginning I mentioned that your $500,000 business grew to seven figures because of these events. I'm curious, from a profit perspective, how do you account for that based on, the extra labor that you're bringing on for these events, from production staff to, photographers? What margin are you typically trying to build into these events, so that if someone else is listening to this and wanting to produce an experience, how should they know whether or not, they're building a sustainable event or experiential based business?
Yeah. That's so important. So going into every single event, the numbers are incredibly important to us. We are very budget conscious. We want to make sure that every event, of course, is profiting and that there is a certain margin that we're taking home. Otherwise, it's, like there's so much work involved in the event, not just the expenses, but you're planning months in advance. You are pouring so much of your time and energy not just in creating an impactful event, but making it different every year. Your clients are expecting like high level, like just out of the box type of ideas, and that creates a lot of pressure for all of us behind the scenes to just really think outside the box every single time we host. And so, in general, for every event, our expenses run about 25% of the revenue, and
Okay.
so we our expenses, like from bringing in vendors to associate photographers to all the things behind the scenes to make an event happen, we spend about 25%. We're very fortunate in that the venue space is already taken care of. And so we have this venue space, but of course, that is an expense in and of itself. And we factor that into the numbers as well. But in general, we want to make sure there is like a 60 to 75% margin for us at the end of the day.
That's amazing. Wow. I mean, I feel like that's very uncommon for events. I mean, we were talking, and actually, we'll talk about Elevate in just a moment here. Our event in January, not our event, your event that I am speaking at, which
I
I
can't
am very
wait.
excited about.
Yes.
And I mean, that really is incredible that you're able to have such a high margin, which I'm sure then allows you to reinvest back into things like mentoring photographers, training them up, being able to serve a wider community. Logistically speaking, each year, how many total experiential events like the Santa experience do you put on? For example, you said in 2022, you're planning to do 6 of the Santa one, but in total for the year, how many will you end with?
We do 5. So
5
we
types of
do,
events.
mhm.
Okay.
We do family portrait events where we do like family photography for our clients. We do the Santa experience. We do Mother's Day. We do Easter. We do a pajama philanthropic event at the end of the year where all of our proceeds go to charity. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, Focusing it on a smaller number of events and just making it repetitious makes it easier for us on the back end because we're doing the same thing over and over, just bringing in different creative elements. But yeah, it's just 5 or 6 different events throughout the year.
And I bet that builds in anticipation with your loyal clientele, right? Knowing, okay, it's almost like, I think it's such a smart way to market because sure, maybe that first time you acquire that customer, you're having to spend a little bit more or, think outside the box to get that client in the door. But once they're part of your world, it's almost like building in, you mentioned traditions, very important. And so it's
Mhm.
kind of like how people anticipate, it's Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to anticipate that this
Yes.
weekend we go to the lake or, whatever it is, like just building in moments into someone's life where every year they know at the end of the year, we're going to the pajama party or every Mother's Day, we're going to Park Studios, right?
Yes. Yes.
I
And
think that's
every
brilliant.
year, from a business perspective, you build on. So the
Yeah.
demand increases, people talk, they share about their experience on social media. And so there's this sense of FOMO. And then the next time we launch an event, there is that demand intrinsically there where the tickets go very quickly. And then the following year, it increases and so forth. And so it's been great.
I'm so inspired. Just 2 more real quick logistical questions before we talk about Elevate to wrap up this case study. If my understanding is correct, then Santa Experience is the only event that has a multi-day, like multiple opportunities to partake. Whereas I'm assuming the other ones, like obviously Mother's Day only happens 1 day a year, or Pajama Day, those are just 1 day events. Is that correct?
So Mother's Day is 2 weekends, so it's
Oh, it
4
is.
days.
Okay. Ooh,
Yes,
okay.
and, Easter is a 1 weekend event, pajama session is 1 weekend. So we are able to take a Saturday, Sunday, and then book out the entire day every 5 to 10 minutes. And so we've been doing Mother's Day mini sessions for quite a number of years now. And so selling on that experience has been really easy. And then every year we also bring on a new event we create, and there's endless opportunities in this model. You could do a baby event where you photograph milestones, like the 6 month, 1 year mark, depending on the milestone of your baby, you can capture that and create an entire experience around that. So, those are the five main ones that we do and repeat every year. And then we also like really try to think outside the box and what other type of events we can celebrate and wrap into this experience model.
That's so smart. My brain is swimming with ideas and I'm not even a photographer, but like I said, anyone can benefit from this case study because you can think about experiences that you can create for your client and how you can take the thing that you are known for, whether that's photography or another type of service, and how you can distill the single most important element to you to maintain, like Alice does for connection with clients, and then think about how you can train others in your process for all the other pieces surrounding it.
Right.
That last logistical question that I referenced a moment ago was the ticket price of 2 to 300. I realized I didn't clarify. Is that 2 to 300 per child that actually receives a portrait session, or is that including adults and the parents who are accompanying them to the event as well?
So that is per family.
Oh, per
Let's take,
family. Okay.
yes, let's take the Santa experience, for example. The ticket price is about $200.
Mhm.
That includes the ticket for the entire family to come and experience this. You could come with just your child if that's where your comfort level is, or where, everyone's busy and has their own schedules, or you can bring your entire family, grandparents included, and experience it all together. I have actually seen this shift in like bringing the entire family to like witness their children's experience with Santa, because it is such an important tradition to everybody here. So it includes the entire family. Everyone's welcome to come. We provide enough food and beverages for everyone. And the portrait session is 5 minutes for the children,
Mhm.
and it includes 2 digital files. So once you receive your gallery, you will actually receive a gallery of 15 digital files. There is intention behind that as well. You pick your two favorites, but our photographers are trained to photograph a wide variety of different photographs. Of course, you want to get the photograph where Santa and the children are looking at the camera and smiling, but there's all those moments in between that we're capturing as well. We also tell our parents to come dressed to step into one family photograph. And so we do a variety with the family in there as well. It's so quick, Ellen. You can imagine 5 minutes goes by so quickly. And so in that 5 minute period, we are training our photographers to photograph 15 very powerful images, like every one of them unique, everyone very strong. And then so we show our clients the 15 images. They are all, photography is very much an emotional type of investment. And so we never try to upsell them on the front end. We upsell on the back end. And so $200 includes their experience, their ticket, their portrait session, and 2 digital files. And if they want to like buy them all, which they all end up doing, it's an additional $100. So it averages about $300 for every client that walks in the door.
That's so smart. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you, for your transparency. This level of intention that you pour into every piece of your business is just like I mentioned, so admirable. And that's why I'm so excited to be part of your incredible event in January in Nashville. So, Elevate Summit, tell us a little bit about who this is for, who should come to this event, and
Yes.
why is it different than a typical conference?
Oh, I'm so excited. So, as I mentioned before, Ellen, my husband and I started the National Association of Professional Child Photographers about 12 years ago in an effort to continue elevating the industry. Like, we're setting the standards, we are providing resources for our members, and we are cultivating a community amongst us. And so we've been hosting these intimate retreats for the past 10 years for our membership. They've been in around all over the world. As you know, Ellen, I love event planning and putting on these type of events for our membership. But this year, in our 10th year of hosting these type of events, we really just wanted to make it the best one ever. We wanted to build on what we've learned over the last decade of hosting and create an experience, not just for our membership, but for all creative entrepreneurs. And so we are hosting the Elevate Summit this January in Nashville. The dates are the 24th and the 25th with a VIP experience offered on the 23rd of January. And we are inviting all creative entrepreneurs to be part of this experience. This is designers, photographers, content creators, those in media and publication, you name it. If you are a small business owner in the creative industry, or you have a desire to enter that, this is for you. And I really wanted to make sure, as I was designing the programming and inviting speakers such as yourself, that we created something for everyone, no matter where you are in your business. So if you're starting, like if you have a hobby that you want to pursue as a full-time business, or you're in your 17th year, such as myself, I wanted to make sure that we created programming that appealed to everyone, no matter what level of business you're at.
I am just so excited to be part of this conference. The lineup, you all, is incredible. Incredible. You have to check it out. Alice, where can they go to see the full speaker lineup, the schedule, the whole experience, the Alice Park experience, right? As we have been talking about today.
Sure. You can go to letselevatetogether.co online. It has everything, all the details that you need to know, the types of tickets that we offer. Um, and then we are offering a $200 discount to all of your listeners, Ellen. You just need to use the code Ellen200 for that. And then you can follow us on Instagram as well. Let's Elevate .co. And there is where we share a whole bunch of small business tips and inspiration, highlighting our speakers and so many more in the industry making waves. I think like this conference experience for me as an event planner, as a creative, is like the culmination of everything I've ever produced in the past. Like I am having so much fun with this, Ellen. Even talking to sponsors, I'm like, you have to think outside the trade show booth. We're not doing like pop-up banners or like plastic tables or anything like that. That's one dimensional. We are talking about creating like activation stations, really activate your brand and immerse our audience. Like so just even that aspect, every little component of this event is made for the creative. You know, it's really stretching us to think outside the box. It's going to be a conference experience unlike any other because there's so many creative aspects to it. And I think just, if anything, it's going to be an explosion of inspiration for all those involved.
I personally cannot wait to be a sponge and soak it all in.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
truly, everything you touch is magic. And I
Oh,
want everyone listening to be part of this. If you live around the Nashville area, if you're willing to fly to Nashville, I'm flying all the way from the West Coast. So come
yeah.
come join me on this trek. I would love to see you in person in Nashville, January 24th and 25th next year. We can hang out in person. You get to,
Yes.
meet Alice in person and, just sharing her wisdom. And like I said, the speakers, my fellow speakers, are truly just world class in terms of their knowledge and what they're going to be pouring into attendees. So I really just want to make sure you guys don't miss out. We'll put the link for you in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, make sure you scroll below, or you can head to our blog. We'll include that link for you as well as the discount code. So if you are coming, please DM me and Alice after this episode and let us know. I'll see you in Nashville. Just send us that line. We'll know what you mean. And Alice, my final question for you today is, what does being a CEO mean to you?
I always knew. I grew up in a small business family. My parents were both entrepreneurs. Like there's so many wonderful things about being your own boss. There's a freedom involved in being able to dictate the life that you want to lead. There is flexibility and creating a life and lifestyle that revolves around whatever is important to you. In this season right now, it's my children. And so I'm very present and intentional with them every single day. And I knew I would not be able to have that lifestyle had I stayed in that cubicle at UPS. And so I like wake up genuinely every morning in a good mood. Like that to me is the definition of success and happiness. Like waking up, like loving what I do, finding impact and purpose in what I do, and being able to connect on a level unlike any other with other creatives such as yourself, Ellen. So I truly just genuinely love what I do, and I wake up every morning in a good mood.
I resonate with that so much. I mean, you were my first thing on my calendar this morning. So I woke up with a smile on my face. I'm
Oh,
like,
I
I get
love
to talk to
that.
Alice. What a great way to start the workday. Thank you so much, friend. You are incredible. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I loved it every moment. Thank you so much for having me.